Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is Adventure Racing Insider. Today we're going to be looking at the recommended gear list for the Maine Summer Adventure Race. We've already talked about the mandatory gear in another video, but there's a whole list of recommended gear that the race organizers and I think could make your life a little bit easier, maybe faster and more comfortable out there on a course for 24 hours. Starting at the top of the list, we have long pants. Long pants are going to keep you a little bit warmer, a little bit drier overnight, or if it's raining. Very important to have something like this to increase your comfort, maybe keep the bugs off of you a little bit more. It is very welcome to have a pair of dry pants after you've gotten out of a paddle and you're cold. So dry, long pants. Leg protection. You can go with something pretty basic like a pair of tights. These are pretty lightweight, they wick sweat well, and I'll wear them in actually warmer races as well. We also have for below the knee, these are shin gaiters from MOXIE gear. These are great for crashing through the bushes. There's a padding, if you can see here, there's a padding on the front that allows you to kick stuff, and you can see mine are pretty messed up from kicking underbrush through the years. But these will keep your shins relatively safe from cuts and nicks and bruises when you're crashing off the trail. To keep rocks and things out of your shoes, I recommend a gaiter like this. These are the Salomon, just ankle gaiters. Catula makes another great one as well. But these will just go over your trail runners and sort of seal between your sock and your shoe. So as you're, again, crashing through the bushes, going in and out of creek beds, you want to keep those rocks and other debris out of your shoes. This has clearly seen better days, but I would recommend the Salomon gaiters for that. The next item is a pair of bike gloves. You're going to be on the bike for a long time. Blisters happen, sweat happens, and you don't want to slip, get blisters, or otherwise damage your hands when you have to ride, another 50 miles. So bike gloves are always a good option, recommended. I recommend these also for other stages as well. I wear them pretty much full time. Helps prevent blisters on the paddle, and it's very helpful for going through the woods. Crashing through the woods, you have to maybe brace yourself against a tree or a rock, and you trip and fall, and these keep my hands from getting cut up too badly when I'm navigating off trail. The next item is sunglasses and hat. I'm wearing a hat. This is the hat that I usually wear, but I've got these sunglasses too, which are the peak of fashion. These are photochromic sunglasses, which are essentially transitions lenses. These are clear in the dark, and they'll get less clear. They'll get more like sunglasses as it gets brighter out. So you don't really need to change them out when you go, when you lose daylight, or if you go into the woods where it's darker, for example, and you can keep these on and keep stuff out of your eyes as you're going quickly on the bike especially. An important upgrade for your maps is going to be waterproof map bags. The maps that you get at the Maine Summer Adventure Race are on waterproof paper, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the ink is waterproof. So you may get running, who knows what the weather is going to be like, but there will be at least one paddle section, so you're going to be involved in water, and it's best to protect your maps from the water as best as possible. So what I recommend are these. For most races, you're going to see maps in the 11 by 17 size range. You might get some smaller ones or larger ones, but 11 by 17 inches is usually a pretty good standard. So I get these plastic zip top bags. There are 100 of them for 20 bucks on Amazon, and they will essentially laminate 2 maps for you front and back. And I've got an example of that. And I've got an example of that here. This is the Shenandoah Epic, where you can see we've done a little notation on the map there for the route and some of the clues for the checkpoints. Then you can flip it over and get the checkpoint clues and the map overview, which is very helpful, and you can quickly change between maps on the fly. Another recommended item is duct tape. That's helpful for fixing items, patching holes in packs and things like that. But you don't want to bring like a whole big roll of duct tape. What I do is I will bring this in here, inside is, if you can see, that is a dog waste bag that I've rolled about 3 feet of duct tape around. Much lighter, much easier to contain, and you can just put it in your repair kit. Usually I just stick it in here with my bike tools as well. I also keep a few zip ties in my bike toolkit. These are especially helpful if one of your cables happens to snap off and you need to secure something back to the frame of the bike. Speaking of upgrades for the bikes, one thing that I would recommend, no matter what kind of tire setup you do, whether it's a tubed or tubeless, is bringing an extra tube with you. If you have a large enough gash in a tubeless setup, or you have a sealant failure or something like that, having a tube to be able to pop in, inflate, and go is always a really wise investment, and I think it's worth the wait. When you're navigating, probably the most helpful tool on the bike for me is going to be this map board. This is a map board by AUTOPILOT. It's a really cool, specifically engineered piece of equipment that will sit on your handlebars like so, and you have a vinyl cover here that will protect any maps from the rain like so, and you can view that, and if you can see behind me, it goes right on your front handlebars there, so you can navigate and see the map while you're riding. Super duper helpful tool. These can be purchased through Rootstock Racing. Highly recommend it if you want to level up your adventure racing navigation game, especially on the bike. So obviously you're going to need to eat. So you're going to need food for the whole race. That's 24 hours of hard outdoor activity. I like to get my food in a few different ways. We've got, energy gels like this, sort of more liquid energy, which are great to have on the bike when you really only need a little bit, or you can only take a little bit at a time. I've also got Ensure, which is a nutrition shake for old people, and I love these. These are great transition area snacks that you can get a lot of calories in real quick, along with some vitamins. I have Tailwind. This is sort of my go-to electrolyte mix. These are going to go in my water reservoir. They have sugar and caffeine and all the electrolytes that you need. Very helpful to have those, and it makes your water just a little bit more efficient, especially on hot days. The next thing I have is some 4-hour fuel. This is from the folks at Bend Racing, and they know a thing or two about adventure racing and adventure racing fuel. But this is a complete nutrition shake that you just mix up in like a bike bottle on the course, and you can have enough nutrition and calories to last you about 4 hours of an adventure race. Sometimes people will fuel all of the whole adventure race on just these. That's totally possible, but I like to mix it up a little bit, especially overnight when I'm in transition areas with these. These are O-meals. These are self-heating MREs. You just put a little water in there, the pouch goes and cooks, and about 10 minutes later you have cheese tortelloni. I will be honest, these are really great, and they're a great mood booster, especially 2 or 3 in the morning. If you're cold and freezing, having a nice hot meal is an amazing thing. Beyond the recommended gear list that you see here for the Maine Summer Adventure Race, I have a few items that I like to bring on any adventure race course that I'm out there competing on. I think that they make my life a little bit more comfortable and maybe a little bit faster as well. So the first thing on that list is anti-chafing lube. I like bag balm. We've also talked about barrier balm from Squirt Cycling Products, also very good. They're similar to this. This is made in Vermont, very similar to a like a petroleum jelly, but there are additional ingredients in there, skin softening stuffs, lanolin, and that kind of stuff. Well, I'll just slather this on wherever it needs to go, wherever I think I'm gonna get chafed, and it really has saved me on long rides. I'll also have a couple of packets of smaller stuff that I can re-up, especially, you know, if you fall out of the boat or if it's been raining. It's nice to re-up on the anti-chafing stuff before you hit the bike again. The next couple of items are really designed to make sure that you're comfortable and protected out there on the course. Those are sunscreen and bug spray. I use this SPF 30 zinc-based stick, mostly for my face. I've got a lot of other areas covered by sleeves and pants, so it's not too much of this that I need, but it works really, really well. And you know where you put it because it is bright white. Bug spray. This is ultra strong bug spray. The insects, the biting insects in Maine are no joke. Highly recommend bringing something like this along to keep them off of you. Before you go, you can also use something called permethrin. This can be picked up at really any like REI, outdoor store, even Amazon. But this is anti-tick spray that you spray onto your clothing and gear, let it dry, and then wear it. It actually works really, really well if you treat your gear a couple of days in advance. The last bit of protection that I would highly recommend is a mosquito head net. No matter how much bug spray you put on, the bugs in Maine are just absolutely relentless. So to have something like this that can go over your head at night and keep the bugs out of your eyes and ears is going to be super helpful and makes a big difference in terms of comfort. The next few items are clothing items. Totally optional, but I like to carry these. First is a pair of paddle shoes. These are just really basic water shoes, super light. I chuck them in my paddle bag, and it's nice to be wearing these on the paddle rather than my trail running shoes or bike shoes or nothing. Also recommended for the paddle is a towel and maybe a microfiber cloth for cleaning off glasses or other things, keeping yourself dry, drying off after the paddle. Always makes you feel a little bit better. Speaking of being dry, I like to take a pair of dry socks and put them in a plastic bag, zip top bag or dry bag, and just have those ready if I get too soggy in the foot. Having a nice pair of dry socks is a real mood booster. I've gotten really into are these sleeves. These are just arm length sleeves, and they go right on over your arm. Protects you from the sun, gives you a little bit of warmth protection, and if you get too hot, they just come right off and you don't need to worry about changing in and out of a long sleeve shirt. For the top of the head, I have a couple of things that I rely on. One is a buff. This is always great for keeping sweat out of the eyes. You can use it as a headband, as a hat, and a whole ton of other different uses. Neck warmer, all that kind of stuff, but very useful piece of kit to have and stuff in your pack. I also have a wool hat. Overnight it can get surprisingly cool, even in the summertime. So having something like this to stay warm when you're wet and cold overnight is very important. The next couple of items are navigation related. First of which is this device. This is a ScaleMaster map wheel. And if you've ever looked at a map and seen a curvy road and you wonder how long that curvy road is, well, this is the tool to find out. It's got a little wheel on the bottom here that you can see. You turn it on, set the scale of the map, which is going to be on the map, and then essentially just draw this along the path that you want to measure. This is really helpful for measuring out segments, to know how long you should be on a particular segment, because you're not going to have any GPS and you're not going to know precisely where you are, but it will be nice to know if a particular segment is 1 kilometer, 5 kilometers, or 10 kilometers, so you can kind of tick that off and help yourself know where you are a little bit better on the course. The next item I have is an altimeter. This is very, very helpful for navigation, especially when you're on a hillside, or you're gaining elevation and you need to know where you are relative to a checkpoint or another known point. I have a Garmin Enduro, which is one of the only adventure racing approved watches for this. It actually has an adventure racing mode that will disable all of the GPS functions and give you a pressure-based altimeter rather than the GPS one. There are still other functions on the watch that you can still access in adventure racing mode, like the compass and your heart rate. I like having both of those handy right on my wrist along with the altimeter. Super helpful device, and I think you can get on sale. For the trekking sections, I have started running and trekking with a pair of trekking poles. These are collapsible poles that I can pack up or extend when I need them. They give me a lot of extra stability on uneven and rocky terrain, and they'll actually help you a little bit take some of the load off of your feet when you're going for long distances. Trekking poles, very highly recommended. One other strategy is to have a backup first aid kit that will stay in your paddle bag or somewhere else that you might not necessarily have to carry. I like to carry some extra supplies in there to refresh, blister kit, shears, KT tape, and this I won't have to carry. I'll put it in my paddle bag and I'll have access to it before and after the paddle just in case something happens and I need to re-up any of this. I've got, tweezers, all kinds of blister kits, and my favorite Vet Bond here for closing up wounds. While we did talk about the Mylar space blanket in the last video, there's one upgrade that you can do that won't cost you too much weight. That is a bivy like this, especially on a cooler course. It can be helpful to have essentially a space blanket that you're going to get completely into. This will help you get your heat back faster than just a regular space blanket, and in an emergency you can sleep in it overnight. The last item we have is really important, I think, for working together as a team. Your team may not be all the same speed to begin with, and as the race goes on, some teammates may struggle while others may do better. And the idea is to have a way for the stronger teammates to pull along maybe some of the slower teammates. This happens a lot on the bike or on the paddle, but it can even happen on a trek. What I use is something super simple, and it's just this. It's a length of surgical tubing. Very flexible, also very strong. I've got 2 knots and 2 loops in one in either end. One of these goes around my seat post and the other one goes to my teammate behind me, who can put it on his or her front handlebar or hold on to it and be pulled along by a little bit by my bike in the front. I like this better than a static line, like if you were using like paracord. I like this a little bit better because of the flexibility. You don't get sort of those jerks sometimes when the paracord will snap back to tension. This will go back and forth a little bit more smoothly. I will take that, and I have a little frame bag here that goes on the back right near my seat. Pop this whole thing in and we can actually deploy it while we're riding. So, if my teammate says I need a tow, we can just unzip and I give them the other end of it and we go. Like, we don't even need to stop. So really enjoy having this. It can be a lifesaver on a very long stage and can be super crucial to finishing a race if you have one or more teammates that might not be having their best day out there. So that's the recommended gear for the Maine Summer Adventure Race this year. I've added a few other items that I like to use on adventure races, but you can use this as a starting point for gearing up for this or your next 24-hour adventure race. If you're going to be competing at this year's Maine Summer Adventure Race, make sure you have all your mandatory gear. Check out the previous video for that. The recommended gear I've shown you today is by no means a comprehensive list, but this is all stuff that I would absolutely bring with me out onto an adventure race course. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned a thing or two about the recommended gear for a 24-hour adventure race. If you're up in Maine this coming weekend, I'll see you out there. My name is Jeff, and this is Adventure Racing Insider.